I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Forum Daily West. Here are some of the top stories we've been following. White smoke pours from the Sistine Chapel chimney, signaling a new pope is elected to lead the Catholic Church. And for the first time in history, it's an American who will wear the white cassock. Robert Prevost takes the name Pope Leo XIV. Plus, today, members of the armed forces and political leaders commemorate the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War in Europe. Thanks so much for joining us. A new pope has been elected to lead the Catholic Church, and for the first time in history, he's an American. Earlier today, the crowd in St. Peter's Square erupted in cheers as white smoke poured from the Sistine Chapel chimney, signaling that at least 89 votes of the 133 cardinals participating in the conclave to elect a successor to Pope Francis was complete. The 267th successor to St. Peter's name is Robert Prevost. According to Tricia Thomas of the Associated Press, she's the Vatican reporter there. Shortly following the vote, she says the new pontiff likely retired to what is known as the Room of Tears, just behind the Sistine Chapel, where there were 3 white cassocks waiting for him, small, medium, and large. And after his fitting, he made his first public appearance and imparted a blessing from the Loggia of St. Peter's Basilica. This moment in the Vatican is so historical because the conclave has long vetoed even the idea of an American pope. Here is more with the Associated Press.
The idea of an American pope has long been taboo, given the geopolitical power already wielded by the United States. The Chicago-born Cardinal Robert Prevost has extensive experience in Peru, first as a missionary and then archbishop, and he is currently prefect of the Vatican's powerful dicastery for bishops, in charge of vetting nominations for bishops around the world. Francis clearly had an eye on him for years and sent him to run the Diocese of Chiclayo, Peru, in 2014.
Y a todo el pueblo redimido por ti.
He remained in that position until 2023, when Francis brought him to Rome for his current role. The 69-year-old is also president of the Pontifical Commission for Latin America, a job that keeps him in regular contact with the Catholic hierarchy in that part of the world that still counts the most Catholics.
I've been a missionary my whole life, and I was working in Peru, but I am American.
In addition to his nationality, Prevost's comparative youth could count against him if his brother cardinals don't want to commit to a pope who might reign for another 2 decades.
Reaction here in Alberta to the new pope has been one of excitement. Bishop William McGrattan from the Roman Catholic Diocese of Calgary says he spent time with Pope Leo when he was head of the dicastery for bishops.
I found him to be very sensitive. I would say a person who listens first before speaking, one who sort of asks questions in order to be able to really appreciate the context of maybe the issues that you're presenting. And I really found in him a sense of justice, really wanting to make sure that whatever that situation you were talking about and discussing, what was the right thing, what was the justice that needed to be either addressed or supported. And I guess the last thing is that a very quiet man, but very somewhat humble in his demeanor. And I found that always in individuals somewhat inviting, that there is a bit of a mystery, there's a sense of depth to the person, and that I hope that the world will begin to see this as he begins his pontificate.
Anyone living in Lethbridge area should be familiar with the term Oki. It's the Blackfoot word for hello. Downtown Lethbridge installed a new sign displaying the friendly salutation. This public art piece located in Festival Square celebrates Blackfoot culture. Sarah Amies, Executive Director of Downtown Lethbridge BRZ, says the downtown area doesn't have many signs like this. And since this area is frequented by people from both the community and outside of it, the goal is to ensure people feel welcome and embraced.
It is a beautiful visual representation of the message that we want to convey to everybody who visits the downtown. It brings us just that much closer to a form of reconciliation. It honors our deep history. It honors the roots of the Blackfoot Nation within the lands that we're living and working on today. And it's been designed by Wayne Provost, who is an Indigenous artist.
Pro-life supporters are gathering in cities across the country this week for the annual March for Life. The Association for Reformed Political Action is holding rallies and marches today in Ottawa, Regina, Edmonton, Langley, and Victoria, BC. In Winnipeg, participants covered the beautiful St. Boniface Cathedral grounds with 100,000 flags representing the lives lost to abortion every year in Canada. Over 4 million since abortion was decriminalized in 1969. This mom explains why she brought her young son.
I think it's a good example to for everybody to remind the importance of life and to support life even in the circumstances of life that happens. So sometimes, you don't expect a pregnancy, but it's still a life, and you still have to respect and take care of that life.
And we do this every year here. We've done it at our church as well. And it's something you can kind of forget about because Canada has no abortion laws. That was struck down and Parliament never came back to redo that and make some new ones. So it can easily be forgotten by the public, but we're hoping that this refreshes that in their mind, and that they can maybe fight for these little ones that have been lost.
A huge March for Life rally will be held tomorrow, Friday, in Toronto. Events took place across Canada commemorating the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War in Europe. On May 5th of 1945, Canadians and Allied soldiers accepted the surrender of the German forces in the Netherlands, and 3 days later, remaining German forces surrendered across Europe when it was declared victory in Europe Day. Today, a ceremony was held in Ottawa at the National War Memorial, where dignitaries recounted events of World War II and laid wreaths of remembrance.
On May 8, 1945, as news arrived that the Second World War in Europe was finally over, crowds lined the streets to celebrate in cities and towns across Canada, Europe, and in allied nations around the world. As we remember the celebrations of May 8, 1945, we also pause to remember all those who served and gave their lives so that others might have the gift of peace and freedom. More than 1 million Canadians and Newfoundlanders served in the Second World War, and over 45,000 made the ultimate sacrifice.
Here in Lethbridge, a similar ceremony was held on Thursday at the Mountain View Cemetery. The ceremony was attended by members of the municipal government and members of the Lethbridge Legion, including Henry Heinen, a Dutch-Canadian who was born when the Netherlands were controlled by the Nazis. Heinen and the members of General Stuart Branch No. 4 say the relationship between Canadian and Dutch peoples represent freedom and selflessness to the world.
As a Dutch-Canadian community, I think we have a presence in southern Alberta, especially in the North County. I always say jokingly that, of course, in this country we're a bilingual country, but if you go to the North County of Lethbridge, I always say unofficially the second language is Dutch. And there's still people coming in from Holland to farm and all that kind of stuff. So keeping that in mind, I tell my kids that too, and grandkids, and now even I'm a great-grandfather, to make sure, that we always appreciate what it means to be free.
I believe the friendship and camaraderie with the Canadians and the Dutch is a strong bond because of the Canadians' unselfishness when they were liberating the area, that bringing in the rations, helping them pick themselves up after. And I don't think the Dutch community forgets that. The younger generations need to know what was fought for at that time, and that our freedom is a result of those events and those ultimate sacrifices that many had endured.
The Bank of Canada says the trade war has rattled financial stability progress, creating higher risks overall. The central bank has released its latest financial stability report, saying that in the near term, the trade war could cause further market volatility, while trade-exposed workers could see layoffs and financial strain.
A prolonged global trade war would have severe economic consequences. It would reduce growth and increase unemployment. This could, in turn, have important ramifications for the financial system. With debt still at high levels, some households and businesses may be unable to keep up with payments. If loan losses occur on a large enough scale, banks could cut back on lending in response. This would exacerbate the economic downturn and put more pressure on businesses and households.
In other news, Canada's premiers and Prime Minister Mark Carney will meet in person in Saskatchewan. After a virtual meeting with Carney and the other premiers on Wednesday, Ontario Premier Doug Ford said Carney is extending the Western Province as an olive branch, starting with holding that meeting in Saskatchewan. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith recently raised the idea of the province separating from Canada.
I think Prime Minister Carney did a really good job in really reaching out to the West. And I was pretty blunt. I said, you know, it's time that your government starts showing some love to Saskatchewan and Alberta, because as I said, like, the last Prime Minister showed no love. Matter of fact, to the contrary. So it's nice that we're heading out there to Saskatchewan for an FMM meeting I think it's on June the 1st and June the 2nd. Which is a good olive branch, and had a good discussion. So I'm a big believer of pipelines, big believer of getting rid of C-69, and we need to unite this country. And the way we're going to unite this country, as I mentioned to the Prime Minister in front of the premiers, show some love to the people of Alberta and Saskatchewan.
Alberta's South Zone currently has the highest number of measles cases in the province, with 179 out of 297, and at least one more case was confirmed in Lethbridge on Wednesday. Alberta Health Services is warning of a possible exposure at Pizza Hut on Mayor McGrath Drive South back on April 27th between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. If you were at that location during that time and you were born in or after 1970, you should monitor for symptoms, and you are strongly encouraged to review your immunization records. If you've had fewer than 2 documented doses of the measles vaccine, you may be at risk for developing measles. A 36-year-old man from the town of Blairmore, Alberta, is facing child sexual exploitation charges. Police say William McQueen was arrested on Monday, April 28th, after the Alert Internet Child Exploitation, or ICE, team and Crow's Nest Pass RCMP executed a search warrant. Blairmore is about 140 kilometers east of Lethbridge. Police say McQueen had been arrested by ICE for similar offenses in October of 2019. These latest offenses include possessing, accessing, and making available child pornography, and multiple firearms offenses resulting from an improperly stored firearm found inside his residence. Alert identified McQueen as a suspect following a tip from the RCMP's National Child Exploitation Crime Center. It's alleged he shared child pornographic materials over the social media applications Discord and Snapchat. McQueen was released from custody and was scheduled to appear in court on a Thursday. On to some much happier news. $500,000 was awarded to 49 charitable projects in southwestern Alberta by the Community Foundation's 2025 Spring Grant. The projects received the grants Thursday as a result of the spring call for applications to the Community Priorities Fund, the Henry S. Varley Fund for Rural Life, and multiple Field of Interest funds. Charlene Davidson, Executive Director of the Community Foundation, explains.
We're having a fantastic year because we've already awarded over $510,000 through our restricted funding. So this will take us to over $1 million at almost the halfway mark of the year. So we're very excited about that. Well, we like to fund grassroots projects, Basically, projects that really help enhance our community, help us maintain a high quality of life throughout southwestern Alberta. All of these projects do something, whether it's inclusive or enhancing infrastructure, capital campaigns. We also thank our donors because our funding comes from our generous donors, so we really couldn't do what we do without their support.
So from the Community Foundation, we received just over $12,000, and that grant is going to allow us to pay for this cart and to have it bringing this new programming to people in and around the community. The grant that the Community Foundation has awarded to the LTRA is to help us purchase an adaptive cart. It's the first of its kind adaptive cart that allows individuals from all walks of life to be able to be near and to ride horses. So right now out at the farm we have a wonderful therapeutic riding program, but unfortunately there are limitations and barriers that prohibit and impede certain individuals from being able to ride. If people are wheelchair users, they may not be able to ride horses in a traditional way. And so this cart was designed and developed as a way to allow everybody to be able to ride horses.
I would love to see that card in action. The Community Foundation of Lethbridge in southwestern Alberta has been supporting the community for over 5 decades.